Well, what's up? Welcome. What's up? Oh, you better wake up. I'm giving you sequins before noon. Come on, welcome. Okay. There we go. You know, that is the third time now that I've heard Will tell this story. I had no idea that this was all going on with him right before I went on. It's funny because he told you guys to be present, and apparently he wasn't either that day, right? But here's the thing. What he hasn't told you, and I don't know if he didn't know this or doesn't remember it, but that was one of my, at least I felt at the time, it was one of my worst performances. I don't know what that says, but I felt that way. No shade. I felt that way because, as you'll see when we go through this time together, there are all these electronic and digital technological components that go with what I'm about to do, and every single one of them failed in real time. So in real time, I was up there talking to you, trying to talk to the sound guys in code, and trying to use my left hand to figure out what was working, and nothing was working. And in real time, it probably only lasted about 10 or 15 seconds, but in my mind, it felt like it was going on forever, and it was slow-mo, and I was hitting all these buttons, and no sound was coming. And eventually, I had to make a decision. That decision I had to make was to get over myself. Because I had this perfect plan. I'm sure you know nothing of what it's like to have a perfect plan and have it go up in flames. But I was having this perfect plan, and I kept pressing these buttons because I wanted it to do what I wanted it to do. But at some point, I had to make a decision to either serve my perfect plan or serve the audience who was in front of me. I think that's actually what hospitality really is. Hospitality is getting over yourself so that you can make enough space to see, hear, and feel what the people in front of you need. Now, definitions like that, I've made sort of a career of redefining things. We're gonna talk about purpose, what I call purpose the remix. But one of the things I'm gonna redefine for you is purpose itself. We think we know what purpose is, but can I tell you that purpose is not your title, your role, your talent, your rules, your brand, your reputation. It's none of those things. It's not even your talent. It's not even your passion. And you guys, I am extremely passionate about what I do. And as a little girl, I thought that my purpose was to play the piano. That was my only purpose in life. It was funny getting dressed here because right outside the corner there is the one school I didn't get into, Juilliard. But it kind of reminds me of how you have this plan of how things are going to go, and sometimes it doesn't go that way. At least for me, it hardly ever goes that way. Even my first few lessons back in Charleston, South Carolina, I started to play the piano at a very old age. I got started really late, was the ripe old age of 8 years old, which in the world of classical music is pretty much over the hill. So when I got to that first lesson, I'm imagining I'm going to play Mozart. I knew there'd be Chopin. There'd be Beethoven. So imagine my surprise when I got to my first lesson thinking I was gonna sound like that. And my teacher broke out one of those red and white John Thompson piano books, and instead I sounded more like this. Wait for it. That was my whole entire lesson. I was mortified. I went home, took the entire book, learned the whole first book, brought it back to my second lesson, and I said, "Teacher, can I please move on to Mozart and Chopin and Beethoven?" And he said, "No, Jade, we must go one page at a time." And that torture went on for like 8 or 9 months. And then unfortunately, he died. I don't know why you're laughing. It's a very sad occasion. I was a little bit sad, but if I'm being honest, I was just, a little bit happy, because now I'm gonna get my second teacher, and I go to my second teacher. This guy plays jazz and blues and organ, and I'm thinking I'm gonna leave playing foot pedals and jazz chords, but he broke out a level 2 John Thompson book. I should be grateful, because at least now I sound like this. You guessed it. Now see, you don't think this is a big deal. You think this is a spoiled little girl not getting to play the music she wanted, but you gotta understand, for me, my whole purpose in life was to play the piano. And so now I'm watching my whole life just go up in flames because these guys won't let me do what I wanna do. So I take the whole book home, learn the entire book, every last page. You hear what I'm saying? I'm pretty much a child prodigy. And these two guys are just missing it. And I say, Dr. Green, can we please move on to Chopin and Mozart and Beethoven? And he must have studied at the same school of pedagogy as the first guy, because he says, no, Jade, we must go one page at a time. And this torture goes on 5-6 months. And then he also died. Your laughter's a little more nervous now. You sound kind of like my parents. I think they thought I was like the Black Widow of piano students at this point. But here's the thing. When you're doing something over and over and over again and it's not working, at some point, you gotta try something new. So it's now time for me to go to my third teacher, Kay Whitehead. This is back in Charleston, South Carolina. And I go to her and I figure I need to do things a little bit differently. I think I'm gonna tell her what had happened to the two guys who came before her. So I knock on her door and she opens it, and before she can break out those god-awful piano books, I said, Miss Whitehead, I gotta tell you something. My first two teachers insisted I play out of those John Thompson books, and they were dead within a year. I'll never forget, she leaned down and said, Jade, what would you like to play? And it is literally because of this third teacher that I am standing in front of you today. She gave me my first Mozart, my first Beethoven, and I like to tell the story that she looked at me and she saw this budding talent in front of her, and she threw out all her beginner books and decided to do things differently because she believed in me. But truth is, that lady was probably worried about her life expectancy. Either way, I want you to think of that third teacher as a gateway. I believe, even as an artist, that I'm in the same business as many of you. The industry, the lifestyle of hospitality. What this teacher did for me was open a door that I had actually already subconsciously closed. I had said, if I go to this lady and she does the same thing, I'm going to quit playing piano. There are people who are going to meet you, team members who are going to come onto your team. You don't know it, but you are that third person, that gateway. And I think it's wonderful to imagine every time, what if I am the last hope for the people I encounter? I'm gonna talk to you a little bit more about hope as we go on, but I'm gonna play now for you a piece that I dedicate to that third teacher, Miss Whitehead. Pretty good, right? Pretty good. Take that, Juilliard. I thought I was pretty good too until I got to college and I realized everybody was awesome. Now, I'm sure you all know nothing of what it's like to be in an oversaturated, highly competitive industry with type A personality, slightly neurotic people. But if you do, you know the world of classical music as well. We have kind of three demographics. On this side, we've got the cute little annoying child prodigies, and they play exactly what you just heard me play. Then on this side, you got these legends. I mean, these old guys. They're like 162 years old, right? Didn't just play Beethoven, they played golf with Beethoven, yeah? And they won't die and get off the stage. And then in the middle, there was me, an African-American female classical concert pianist. Often I played in halls where not a lot of people looked like me or were in the same age bracket. And what that tends to make you do is to compete to death, to make sure the world knows you belong in that room. And I have an idea that you might know what it's like to spend years honing your craft, doing the thing you love to do, to the point of exhaustion, to the point where you're wondering why the heck you chose this thing in the first place. And after only about a year, I'd say maybe 3 years into my career, I was already exhausted. And in order to get through the exhaustion, I started telling stories in between the music. Now, I was just trying to catch my breath, but the audiences started falling in love with the details of the composers, the love life of Liszt, right? The scandal of Beethoven. They loved this stuff, and I would tell it in between the music. And in between, what was happening is I started establishing this rapport with the audience. Now remember, my purpose was to play the piano to impress audiences to death. And I would program to be impressive. And so when I got done, I wanted you to come tell me how awesome I just was. And instead, when I would get done playing, people would come and say, oh my gosh, the story you told about the Chopin reminded me of my grandmother who's no longer here, and she used to bake cookies to the Chopin. And I'm like, cookies? Your dead grandma? Did you not hear me just soleil on that piano? And can I tell you, for the first year or so, when people kept telling me how much they were moved and impacted beyond the music, I was offended. Do you know, there's a powerful moment that comes when we realize that our purpose, it's not the thing we're doing. You see, I thought my purpose was to play this instrument, and then you were supposed to have a reaction to me playing it, and then we'd go home. I'd come, I'd bow, I'd play, I'd bow, I'd play, I'd bow, and I'd go home, and that would be it. But once I started speaking, something else started happening. And when I started listening to my customers who were there to be served, I started hearing something really powerful. They said, Jade, we were actually coming for the music, but we got so much more than we came for. If you remember nothing else, remember this: your purpose is not the thing you do. It is the thing that happens in others when you do what you do. You see, when you get this, you'll realize that you're not just in the hospitality industry, you're not just a restaurateur, a head chef, hotelier. Can I read to you? I came up with this last night. I wrote it down because it hit me deeply, and I hope it hits you. I don't believe your purpose is to simply perform the action or run the business that you do. If your purpose is what breaks out in those that you serve, this is what I believe breaks out. When people encounter you, in exchange, they get a respite, an escape, an exploration away from the never-ending stretch of everyday life. Hospitality is the rescue we didn't make time to call for, that saves us from the ongoing chaos of overscheduled lives, the pull of obligation, and the unnecessary cruelty of clueless or callous human beings. Hospitality is quite literally hope. It is hope that good people still exist. That is what you do. People in hospitality, you guys aren't just artists, which I think there's no coincidence that we're in this beautiful hall. You're not just artists, you guys are magicians. You're magicians because you make us think you actually like us. I mean, that's a pretty amazing feat. Now, when I say that your purpose is what happens in others when you do what you do, I don't say that to make you wrongly codependent on other humans. It doesn't mean that you don't have purpose aside from humans. It means just you waking up and being you has an effect. Instead of being people pleasers, you now get to be purpose pleasers. You get to chase down purpose to be sure that you're living a life of impact. Now, that takes a little change. You know, in my industry or in the world of classical, there are a lot of things they always expect to hear, and they expect it to be the same way every time. Mozart has to sound a certain way, Beethoven has to sound a certain way. They expect it, like pieces like this. You know that piece, yes? Flight of the Bumblebee. Audiences expect it all the time. They want the same ending. Yes, and they clap, and the crowd goes wild, and then I go home. But here's the thing. When you've spent a lifetime mastering what you do, and I know that in this room it's a room full of masters, you get to believe that you've already done the work of managing expectations. You've given your audiences what they expect. Because you've done that so wonderfully time and time again, you actually get to give yourself permission to jazz things up a bit. You're still gonna give them what they came for, but you get to put your own spin on it now. You have to keep the same speed. You know, you're in charge now. You can slow it up, make it a little sexier than you really are in real life. Thank you. But here's the thing. You know, you've jazzed it up a little bit, but truth be told, even parts of that jazzy arrangement that I just played were written by somebody else. My entire early career was written by a bunch of old dead guys. You have to decide. Remember, purpose is not even tradition. We have these incredible mission statements, these incredible mantras. Some of us have been handed our business down from generations of family. But at some point, you have to ask yourself, how do I serve the people in front of me right now? And does that require me to push the norms that have come before me? And you see, when you do that, you're gonna have to lay down a whole new foundation. Purpose is going to require you to now live with it all of the time. It's going to become your mode of operation. You no longer get to just do what you do. You have to constantly be inspecting what's coming out of what you do, what's happening in people. And you're going to set a new beat eventually, but you have to examine what your unique offering is. For me, rhythm became this through line that kept sneaking its way back in no matter the music I was playing. And whenever we're talking about a good foundation, that's going to require a good bass line. Now, you see, when you lay down a bass line, after 15 minutes or so of Mozart and Beethoven and Rachmaninoff and maybe a little bit of jazz, the people in the room are gonna suddenly understand things are about to get a little bit different than they've been so far. Now, when you do that, it gives you permission to begin to set a whole new beat. Now, you're not gonna just ask for permission to set a new beat. You're gonna listen to the rhythm of the room around you. And you're gonna say, what do the people in front of me right now need from me? Then you're gonna dare to say, I've set so many standards that are excellent. I get to now put all of my gifts on display. I don't have to hide. I don't have to compartmentalize myself. And I get to decide now that there's a new sound that the new era requires. We like to call that in the world of music a remix. Here is my remix of Flight of the Bumblebee, simply called The Flight. Can I get a little more in the monitor up here? Right? Listen. Thank you. When I started doing stuff like that, you have to understand, I was crossing a bit of a line. It wasn't so bad. You notice even when Will came out, he told you about, the different acts that played here, and he named kind of a lot of the jazz people, and if you go in the dressing rooms, you'll see scores that are signed. There's one in my dressing room signed by Mahler, Toscanini, and Bernstein. It's incredible. If it's missing, please don't come looking for me afterwards. But this hall is renowned for that. But a lot of times left out of that conversation are other art forms. And even in school, when I was studying classical music, there was always this separation of state, right? There was classical, there was jazz, then there was other. And can I just tell you that one of my favorite musical idols is not Beethoven and Mozart? Now, I feel like we're good friends now. I can tell you my deepest, darkest secrets, but one of my favorite musical idols is actually Missy Elliott. Oh, you know who she is. You guys are not as white as I thought. That's so good. Yeah, so I love Missy because she totally changed the game. She changed the sound of the genre that she was in. And I always had this kind of a double life, By day, I was doing classical, and then by night, I was listening to hip hop and moonlighting in this percussion and dance ensemble. But it took a little bit of courage to decide to blend elite music with street music. And when I did that, can I just tell you, my manager went crazy. He said, Jade, what do I tell people? I just won a fancy competition here in New York, and he was my manager, and after about a year or so, I'd started doing this stuff, and by that time, I'd been speaking a little bit, and making beats a little bit, and he said, Jade, what do I tell people? Do I tell them you're a classical musician, a jazz musician? Do I tell them you're a beat maker, a hip-hop artist, a rapper, an author, a pastor? What do I tell them? I said, duh, tell them all of the above. You know, you probably know more than anybody else that we sort of live in an all of the above society right now. Nobody is who they appear to be. Nurses are telling me when I'm speaking at healthcare conferences that, Jade, we are doing way more than we signed up for. They're being grief counselors, hospice workers, family therapists. Sometimes they're helping people with their finances, all in the hospital room because things have changed. It's like we've been microwaved and pressurized in this way where the people in front of us who we used to serve in one way are now requiring us to serve them in so many different ways. I, for one, think it's a powerful opportunity to impact way beyond how we're supposed to. How many of you are having a good time so far at the welcome call? Are you having a good time? One of the reasons you're having such a good time is because I'm up here doing all the work. You see, I know that at events like these, you guys can get all inspired, and she's got her notepad out. You're gonna take all those notes, and then you're gonna lose that notepad and forget everything we talked about once you get home. And we're telling you to do things that we want you to act on. We want you to act on them when you get back home. But I'm a big believer in not waiting until we get back home. What if we acted on what we're learning in real time? What I'm teaching is that purpose brings with itself these incredible invitations to get up and do wild things you weren't expecting to do when you woke up this morning. Now, even though all of you aren't going to be able to do what I'm going to ask you to do, all of you get to watch it happen in real time. You get to see somebody rise to the occasion. I'm just curious. I'm not asking this for any real reason, but does anybody in here play piano? Just curious. You bunch of liars. None of you play piano suddenly. Yes, it's funny when I come off the stage and ask that question, I get like no hands. But here's the thing. Purpose will sort of knock on your door, breakthroughs really closely behind, and then it's hoping that you'll say yes. Most of us tend to talk ourselves out of an opportunity to be bigger than we've been before. And we sometimes think that if just because we don't make eye contact with it, oh, okay, purpose will just keep on walking by. But I'm just gonna ask, who would like to come with me to the stage? Anybody? Oh my gosh, your hand went up. So come, your hand went up so quickly. That's one of the fastest I've seen. Man, I love it. Take your time. Oh, zip your boots up. Okay, you're ready. You are ready. Look at you strutting. Now, you raised your hand before I could barely get it out of my mouth. You must play the piano, yes?
I'm proficient because I passed a proficiency exam.
How long ago was that?
In the 90s.
All right, okay. So since you haven't played piano like in the last week, you're probably not the best person to take up there, or what do you think? What do you think? Probably not. It doesn't matter though, because see, purpose could care less how many years you've been doing a thing. Keep going. Purpose, it doesn't really care if you think it's qualified. How many of you have been in moments where you know you had no business being in that moment? You were not qualified? Yes. What's your name? Jennifer. Okay, Jen. So you're gonna go ahead to the stage, make yourself comfortable at that piano there. Big round of applause for Jen. Now, Jen, they are clapping so raucously for you, partly because they really believe in you. They think you're gonna be awesome. The other reason they're clapping is because they think they're off the hook, but they're not. You see, the thing about purpose is it doesn't want you to go it alone. It wants you to have a partner in crime. You know, it just believes that when you have a haircut that sharp and a beard lined up like that, and ink like that, you must need to be seen. Is it Adiel? Adiel, and I even pronounced it right the first time. It's like fate or something. Can you come with me, Adiel? I promise it will not be painless. I mean, it won't be painful. Come. Big round of applause for Adiel. It's your fault. You look so good. Come. Do you play piano? Are you a musician?
No.
You're not a musician at all. So you're like woefully underqualified. Yes. It's okay, because purpose will sometimes yank you in to do things you weren't expecting to do. Because here's the thing, guys. Purpose has done its homework. It's decided that if it's ended up at your door, it knows in advance that you're going to rise to the occasion. So, Jen, we're going to put you on piano here. You're going to sit down at this low end. Ariel, you're actually going to sit here and play drums, believe it or not. So you're going to face this way. You're going to turn around right here. I'm going to give you some drumsticks. All right, now. So first, I'm going to give you the beat first. Now, I'm going to keep it simple. Do you play drums by any chance? No. Oh, this is awesome. Okay. You're going to turn around so you can face the drums here. And I'm going to give you one stick for now. I'm going to show you what to do. A very simple beat. No offense, this is actually called the white boy beat, okay? It's very basic. It's just, that's it. Try that with two. Don't get happy yet. Just give him a chance. So you're just going to do that over and over. Try it. Slow down. Don't go too fast. That's good. Now, when you feeling like you really got it, you've nailed it, you got all these options here, right? You could be like, you can do anything you want. But in the beginning, you're allergic. In the beginning, we're just going to keep it simple. It's like, we will rock you. We will, you know that. All right, try that. Now, you got to keep the rhythm there, okay? Keep going. Now, Jen, you're going to feel that rhythm there, right? And I'm going to give you a very simple bass line. Since you play, we'll give you both hands here on E flat. Both hands. Can you do it? Yep, and you're going to, don't look at me, mind his beat. Okay, now when you're feeling really good, Jen, you can jazz it up a little bit. Okay? Yeah. Now y'all keep going. Y'all keep going. Y'all just, and get comfortable with each other, feel each other's rhythm, lean into it, right? And let me just talk to y'all for a little bit. Just come on over here a little bit. Let me, y'all keep going. It sounds great. Sounds awesome. Awesome. Okay, Jen. Here's the thing. See, we got lucky today. This doesn't always happen because you don't always get to pick your teams. Sometimes you inherit your team. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you got people you just can't get rid of, right? Sometimes they in the union. You know what I'm saying? Right? So you got to keep them for a little bit. Now, what you got to begin to believe is that you are not suffering through your personnel issues. You're going to begin to believe that every single person in front of you was gifted to you. And that even if they get off a little bit, they will find their groove again. You're not going to micromanage and jump in too early. You're going to let them begin get a little froggy with it, play around. Audio, you got a little something? Okay, thank you, Jen. That's all right. Keep it. Audio says he's keeping it right there. That's fine. Now, you as the breakthrough leaver, you're going to come in just at the right time and make things just a little cooler. Y'all keep going. Keep going. Big round of applause. Adiel and Jen. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much. Listen, this is always the favorite part of the show for me because I never know what I'm going to get. But what's wild is people always bring it together in the end. And what's, I think, important for you to note is not just that they did well, but I want you to notice when I brought them up. I brought them up towards the end of my presentation. That meant that I left my big grand ending up to two random strangers. Hospitality is believing that the people who are in front of you are not accidents, that they were gifted to you for the very specific moment you were in, that whatever talents they worked a lifetime to be proficient in will come back and play, and that even if they've never done what you're asking them to do, there's enough capacity to pull something powerful out. I'm gonna end now with a piece that I call Black Beethoven. It is a rap. Do we know each other enough? Can I rap for you now? Yes? So I played this piece, I debuted it at the South by Southwest Festival. Do you know that festival? Well, at the time, they didn't really feature many classical musicians. So I told them that if they selected me, so when I said on my application, I am going to play the piano, create beats, and rap on top of it. And I thought, there's no way they're gonna turn that down. And do you know, I got accepted. And I was so excited. Except the truth is, at the time, I didn't know how to do any of those things except play the piano. I didn't even own the electronics to make beats, and the only place I'd ever rapped was for my 5-year-old son, who was very demanding in his young age and wanted a brand new freestyled nursery rhyme every night for bed. So I had some skill level there. I also loved the genre, and I had a way with words. This is a season where, breakthrough leaders are not just concerned about things like the outcomes, the bottom line. That's 101. It's hard, I know that, but it's still 101. A breakthrough leader is really thinking about the outbreak that's happening in the people around them. When I started shifting my concert experience, I had to change the language. I no longer was playing piano recitals. I started saying I was taking audiences on concert adventures that went from Rachmaninoff all the way to rap, with world-class storytelling in between and life-altering inspiration that ensured you did not leave the same way you came. Now, if you were to Google classical concert pianists, there'd be like a gazillion of us. But if you were to Google African-American female classical concert pianist who goes from Rachmaninoff to rap with world-class storytelling in between, you will see one photo, baby, one. It's because when you dare to believe that everything that is in you is not designed to be compartmentalized, but it is designed to come to the table to create an incredible mix that there's no way the world could have seen it before because it includes you. So I dare to put this mix on the table at South by Southwest. The best story you can tell is your own story, so I decided to tell the story about how sometimes I would show up places and people didn't believe I was the classical concert pianist. I did a competition when I was little, and one lady thought I was the usher instead of the pianist. Oh, no, don't worry, it ends well. And so I thought, why not play along? Yes? So I escorted her politely right about there to the front of the piano. So when they called my name, I came out and bowed and played. One guy was so impressed I'd won a Beethoven competition, and he said, "Young lady, you are a credit to your race." I know. You feel bad for him. I was so worried for this guy because my dad's a civil rights activist and he was not far around the corner. And I was like, I hope this guy gets out of sight before my dad hears. And here's the thing. When you are leading the charge, especially when you're trailblazing, you're gonna have to deal with some people who may mean well. They just may have never seen the likes of you. And you will have to make a choice of whether to be offended or not, my mantra is I don't take offense, I take note. I take note of any moment there is to enlighten, educate, surprise, and delight. And I said to that man, sir, I think what you meant to say was that I'm a credit to the entire human race. You know, sometimes you will have to rehear a thing so that you can reteach a thing. I'm going to end now with this piece by me called Black Beethoven, and it's the story of what it looks like to show up somewhere and decide that you belong in the spaces you're in, that in my case, you're not the minority, you're the standout, and that if you're in the room, it's because you're designed to bring something to it that wasn't there before. I thank you so much for listening thus far, and I hope that you'll enjoy this concluding piece. Do me a favor, when I drop the beat, don't sit there staring at me like a bunch of restaurateurs. Okay? I've seen you guys in the club before. You're a little off rhythm, but you can throw down. Yes? Okay. I hope to connect with you. Thank you so much. Welcome. I was 12 years old, trying to find my way in. Thought I'd enter a competition, I'd play Beethoven. They went fool when I hit the keys real fast. Really, they was worried that their precious Steinway wouldn't last. I won it all, had the trophy in my right hand, but on my left was a seersuckered old man. He looked me dead in my cute little round face, told me with a smile I was a credit to my own race. I was worried for this man, he about to get got. If my angry black man daddy was in earshot, but he kept going, said he wished the others were like me. Only they would play a little Beethoven and Debussy. I shoot him off, no time for nonsense, but who'd have thought I'd keep running into ignorance. One chick thought I was the usher, so I put her in row 9. Then I proceeded to take the stage, proceeded to blow her mind. Get up, off of my gown, clown. Get up, off